Well, hello and happy holidays. It is Jeff Jones here and John Burnham coming to you live with the Lending Podcast here in Austin, Texas. This is going to be our 42nd episode. We are talking about the opportunities you find during buying during the holiday season. So, holiday, buying your home, roast those chestnuts over your own open fire.
That's right.
This is the season.
Your new open fire.
So
Yes.
we just like talking about opportunities. We want to keep it positive because we do feel like this is really a good buying season for people out there that have been waiting to buy their home. And so that's really who this is for. It's also to encourage, you know, those people in our real estate industry to not discourage people to buy during the holiday season because we can get a lot done over these next 2.5 months.
That's right.
And we can get people into homes around a Christmas tree. And that's what we love to do.
Well, for sure. And I think this is historically the time of year when real estate tends to slow down.
Right.
And that creates an incredible opportunity for those buyers out there that really need to make a move in the next 90 to 120 days or a few months or what have you, because
Right.
there are some motivated sellers out there. We're going to talk about a couple of key reasons why November, December, January might be the best time for you to buy. And primarily it's because there are some sellers that thought they would sell in the summer. Gosh, we went through the buying season, the selling season, their house didn't sell. And now for whatever financial reason, they're more motivated now than ever. Now, you might not see as much new inventory come on the market over the next couple of months because you get into Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's tougher to maybe list a brand new house for sale during those months. And I shouldn't say it's tough. It's just not as common.
Mm-hmm.
Folks want to then wait for the spring. So there's maybe less new inventory. However, the houses that have been listed may have some negotiating power on them.
That's right. That's right. A little personal story about myself
Yeah.
and, my family. So we came here from Buffalo, New York 6 years ago, and we came into Austin in November. And we knew we were going to buy. We sold our home, and we came here to rent to try to figure out some neighborhoods. But looking back on it, if I would have talked to you back in November, we probably would have bought in November, December.
Yeah.
And we would have been in a home during the holidays instead of in an apartment that
Yeah.
was at that time full of mold. And
Yeah.
that was a Kringle Christmas.
I remember your mold issues. Those were no fun.
And so there, for us, I have kind of if I had to do it all over again, I would have just bought.
Yeah.
And for those people that are relocating to Austin or wanting to buy, now is what we do know. So we do know your interest rate now. You do know what houses are on the market now. So if you find your house, if you're good with the monthly payments, this is the perfect time to move in.
It really is. And when you're listening to this or watching this for the first time, it's going to be right around, Halloween, right before Halloween here of 2024. We're also right around election time. So normally this time of year, we call it Happy Hallows Thanksmas.
Right.
Because it goes from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas, and it's like one big holiday. But in an election year, it's Happy Hallows Election Thanksmas. I just made that up.
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
It's like a turducken.
We have four. Is it like a turducken with an extra meat in there? It's like four, and that's where we're at this year. I feel like there's a lot of things going on right now, and it's gotten busier and busier. And so, as a potential buyer out there, as someone who's evaluating this market, and you're saying to yourself, "I'm just going to wait." Again, that might be the right decision for you, but have you had enough of a discussion?
Right.
Have you looked at all of your options? Have you reviewed your buying power? Have you looked at the inventory at this end of the year season where really it might pose a significant opportunity? And I'll give you a personal example. One of my real estate agents that I've worked with for at least 5 or 6 years is working with a buyer right now. We're helping this buyer. They found a house. It was $455,000. Actually, it was $469,000 was the original list price. They dropped it to $455,000. My buyer's going in at $400,000. Now they're a ways apart, but I think they're going to get a deal done.
Yeah,
somewhere between $400,000 and $450,000.
Nice.
And it was listed for $470,000 almost. So those are the types of opportunistic buyers right now that we're working with that see the value in the marketplace. And yes, we've had some fluctuation on interest rates. They came down significantly. They've popped up just a hair. That's okay. They're going to continue to fluctuate. Really, through the election, they're going to fluctuate probably the next few weeks. And then once we have some clarity on that verdict, then we may start to see things settle down a little bit in the market. But if you're a buyer out there, you're really not specifically looking just at interest rate. You shouldn't be looking at just interest rate to determine your decision on whether or not you're buying. And you
Agreed.
touched on that. It's like
Yeah,
if the payment works, the house works, you find the right property, everything else falls into place.
that's right. And I think we don't want people. A lot of people drop out because there's so much information and so many options. And so you get this analysis paralysis
For
that
sure.
happens with people. And to keep it simple, if you love your home and if you're good on the monthly payment for your mortgage, that should be the deciding factor if you want to buy the home. And then there is cash to close. So those are considerations. But to your point, um, where we're seeing with interest rates, since we're lenders, we have the pulse of what's going on in our market. If you were pre-approved 2 weeks ago for one buying power, that might have changed this week because rates have gone back up.
That's right.
And so your point of things going up and down, the earlier, the quicker you start your pre-approval process and get scenarios for you, the better power you have to make those decisions. If you wait, then your buying power might be less, so my point is if you lock in a rate earlier, it's a known quantity, right? If you're waiting, you don't know what that's going to be for your buying power.
Right.
So I think just settling in with a little peace of mind. Peace during the holiday seasons is wonderful because there's so many changes with the turduckens going on.
Right.
That you want to have a peace of mind of knowing what your monthly payment is, what you're qualified for, and what house you want. If you know all those things, don't wait. So that's really what we're trying to encourage.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and we're kind of speaking right now specifically to the owner occupied buyer out there, right? You're
right.
buying your home that you're going to live in. And we can pivot off that a little bit and talk about our investor clientele out there because this is the time of year, no question, hands down, as an investor, you will find value in the marketplace.
That's right.
And there's also on the seller side, investors just through experience. We're talking to our investor clients that have built a portfolio and now those property taxes maybe have risen and rents haven't gone up as much as the property taxes and insurance in some of those cases. And so we're seeing investors that are selling their properties
Yeah.
and taking a nice profit and going and doing something else with that profit. And they're not fire selling, and we're not seeing like crazy value across the board out there, but there are absolutely some deals to be had.
Yeah, there is. And I'm glad you brought that up. So a lot of times what we see as a lender is we have to estimate property taxes on a property. Now, November is right around the corner. We're sitting here right before Halloween. And so November is when, counties are putting out new property taxes on the addresses you own. And as an investor, when you don't have your homestead exemption, so it doesn't cap
Right.
what that increase will be. So they get some pretty big surprises at times. And so you can see values skyrocket on a property from one year to the next. And all of a sudden, you're owing a ton of property taxes because you don't have an exemption that caps the 10% increase. What that means is sellers will redo, or investors will redo their net calculations, right? How much money am I making on this property now that my costs have gone up?
Right.
Now, if costs go up to a certain point where it doesn't make sense for them to hold it, they might just sell that property. And what's amazing is number one, the investor is liquidating, so they can use that for something else. So that's a win. The buyer is coming in, and many times that property right now is overvalued by the county appraisal district.
Yes.
So the county, anybody can go onto their websites, the county CAD, we call it, county appraisal district. If it's Travis County, Hayes County, you just Google, Hayes property taxes or Travis County property taxes, Williamson County property taxes, and you can look up an address and see what it's valued at. The last 3 deals I've done, the county appraisal value was higher than the purchase price. So the county says it's worth more than what the market says it's worth. Now, what happens when a buyer buys that, JB?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, we're qualifying the buyer off of the current tax bill.
Right.
So if we'll just use some numbers. So let's say the sales price of this property is 400,000, but the county has valued it at 450.
Right.
So the tax bill that the current owner has is based on a 450K value. The sales price, the appraisal, let's say the market appraisal, which is not the same as the county appraisal. That's what
Right.
you're talking about. Two different appraisal independent appraisal numbers, right? The county versus the third party appraisal system that we use. So the difference might be 50 grand. So we're actually going to qualify the borrower on that higher tax number. However, the opportunity is once they can close at 400,000 and the property value per the county, let's say is 450, you can challenge that with the county, submit a protest. In many cases, they'll reduce the value, the appraisal value, county value of the home back down to 400,000, which is what you paid for it, and you're going to get your homestead exemption on top of that,
Right.
which limits how much the county. And we're talking thousands of dollars a year
Yeah.
potentially in that differential. So there's a lot of opportunity there for a buyer to protest the taxes if the county has overvalued it.
And we might overspeak a little bit with what we do because it's our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, those win because it's not correct for a county to keep a value higher than the market
Right.
value. And they know that, and so they're gonna usually 9 times out of 10, or maybe even more than 9 times out of 10, approve that protest.
Yeah.
Because you legitimately sold it and you had a legitimate appraisal value at that appraised value. So why would they basically penalize you for paying more taxes than it's worth?
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't plan on talking about property taxes this much, but
Oh, we're gonna segue.
we're gonna go here
Yeah.
because I think it's important to have a little more
Yeah.
of a backstory on what's gone on with property taxes the last 4 years.
Right.
So this is from the data that we've reviewed. This is pretty much on every single file that we look at. We're looking at property taxes. If everybody can rewind 4 years, when COVID hit in 2020 and 2021, the counties basically, and we're talking Central Texas. I'm pretty sure it's this way throughout the whole state, but the counties basically put a freeze on property tax increases. And I think some of that was personnel. They just didn't have the actual appraisers to go out to neighborhoods and value the properties. Things were shut down. The government
Right.
agencies were shut down.
Manpower was
So the
low.
manpower was limited. I mean,
Yeah.
they basically just said, okay, it was 400,000 last year. It'll be 400,000 this year. It'll be 400,000 next year. And from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, we saw very little, if any, valuation change on property taxes. And all the homeowners out there that are listening to this, you can look at your tax bills. If you go back to those years, you probably didn't have any increase, hardly at all, in taxes. In 2022, in the spring of 2022, where we started to see rates go up, we still had the lingering crazy hot demand from a 2021 market that broke every record. And so the early part of 2022, the real estate demand was so high, the county, and we were kind of out of COVID to an extent, the counties started to reassess at a crazy high rate. And I'll give you an example on our property. My taxes went my value went up, excuse me, not the taxes, but the value went up 70% in 1 year.
That's insane.
From 2021 to 2022. Now, it's because 21, 20, and 19 were the same number. They didn't have any increases historically. So in 2022, we can all look at data and agree about April, May, June of 2022 is when the market really started to turn. Demand started to go down. Rates were into the fives and sixes. They were double what they were just a few months prior. And so the values that the counties set are done in January, February, and March. So 2022 values were already done by the county in a red hot real estate market.
Mm-hmm.
They overvalued all these properties. The market turns substantially in 2022. And if you bought a property in 2021 out there and you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about because your value basically doubled in 1 year. You didn't have that homestead exemption cap yet. And we saw some clients really get in trouble.
Oh
on
my
the
goodness,
property
so many
taxes.
phone calls.
So many phone calls. And I
Yeah.
feel for you if you were caught in that storm. And so but the takeaway here is things have really mellowed.
Yeah.
Things have really, really chilled as far as property values. And the county, I mean, we could probably sit down with a county official. I'm sure they would tell you, yeah, we got out over our skis on that deal. Like, we should not have been overvaluing those properties like that. But they were just trying to catch up
They're
with
trying
this
to catch the curve.
crazy market demand.
Yeah.
And so by the time 2023 came around, this is really to what you were talking about. So many homeowners were able to challenge those 22 values, get them reduced, put their homestead exemptions on.
Right.
We saw values start to come down to where the market really was. Because even our property where I live was grossly overvalued. I challenged it. We won our protest. I mean, there was a lot of overvaluing by the county. And again, they were just trying to catch up. But we have seen some lingering effects. That was just 2022. That's only a year or two ago. And so there's still some properties out there that are overvalued by the county because they haven't been challenged,
Right.
and they're lingering from that huge upswing in
Yeah.
22. So
And the easiest way to win the challenge is to buy that house
that's right.
and
Exactly.
say it is actually worth what we paid.
True.
You know,
True.
And it has been a pretty big whirlwind. So if you are one of those people that do not agree with how the county is appraising your assessed value, feel free to challenge it. If you need help challenging it, talk to your favorite realtor or your favorite lender, and we can point you in the right direction. There's a lot of companies that will ask for your money to do that service. Most people do it on their own, to be honest. But there are some good services too you can pay for, and some of them you don't pay until you win.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah, they take a percentage of what they save you, and that's not
yeah,
a bad way to go either.
my
There's some good ones.
yeah, I got family that did that, and they saved them $700 a month,
That's amazing.
and they paid them a fraction of that to do
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so some of those are valuable. So, but yes, so let's circle a little bit back to kind of come to a close because I think that when we're talking about property taxes, you guys, this is not many people out there. It might not be that interesting, but it's actually one of the biggest pieces of your monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about saving a couple $100 a month, just by challenging your taxes, which is a couple pages of paper that all you have to do, and then follow up with your county appraisal district, it's totally worth the time, you know.
Yes.
So if you haven't looked at that, please do it. If you need help, we're here for you. Um,
And on the tax note, remember that is a federal deduction. Your property taxes
right,
up to $10,000 are a federal tax deduction. My gut feels that'll probably change for the better at some point in the near future. I feel like that's because of the way property values have increased, because of the way taxes have increased across the board. That to me needs to be looked at. I feel like that deduction should be larger than 10 grand.
agreed.
But if you're living in a $500,000 house, roughly your
Hmm.
taxes are roughly 8 to 10,000, 11,000 bucks a year. You're writing off almost the entire tax bill
Yeah,
as a deduction, as well as your interest. So if your taxes are 15,000 a year, you're limited, you're capped, you're only writing off that 10,000. The other 5,000 is not a tax deduction, but that shouldn't be a deterrent in and of itself. And we've come across even professionals on the periphery of our space, financial advisors, insurance professionals, who have perhaps told clients, "Oh, our property taxes here are so high." Well, keep in mind in Texas, we don't have a state income tax like other states. So
right.
yes, our property taxes are slightly higher than comparatively to some other states. But when you look at the overall tax rate, it's not that much different. In fact, it's probably better here than it is in a lot of other states because of the no state income
That's right.
tax. So the tax deductions, the home ownership benefits, all of that we look at and say this time of year, if you're opportunistic out there
Yeah,
and you're looking for a quote unquote deal, again, not everything's on sale, right? But there are some properties that are, well, there's a lot of properties that are for sale. Not everything's on sale, but there are a lot that are on sale too. So find those values with your real estate professional. Look at different homes, crunch the numbers, let us help you with the evaluation. And I think this time of year would be a really good time.
I do too. And one thing I like to note, it is the holiday season, so I like people to kind of put their minds into what other people are going through to have that sensitivity and kind of have um, how do I say, the Christmas spirit inside of
Yes.
everybody. So if you know that you're shopping and you're looking at homes, if you are going to a home that is, pre-owned, it's not a new build, those people are selling their house during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Please be sensitive to what they're going through, because what they're going through is a lot. If you imagine listing your home during the holiday season, these people are willing to do that. And if they're willing to do that during the holiday season, then they have some pretty big life situations going on with, like, they're moving during the holidays. They're having people come into their house during the holidays that they don't know. And there's a lot of big financial changes happening. So all to say is treat people with kindness, and give a lot of grace during this holiday season as we help navigate this housing market that's changing all the time, because we do believe this is a good time to buy and a good time to sell for you.
Absolutely. We really do. We appreciate you being with us
Yep.
today, and we love your comments. Please like, subscribe, share, repost, retweet, whatever.
Give us a way as your Christmas present to your friends and family to have them like, subscribe, and share.
I do have a question real quick. Is it
Yeah.
still called tweeting? Is it Xing? I don't know if
I mean, according to Maui from that Moana movie, whenever
okay.
you write with a bird, it's called tweeting.
Okay, all right. I guess it's still tweeting.
I don't do it.
I've only
So,
tweeted a few times.
all right.
All right.
Well,
Take
thank you.
care.
Bye.